Hi there, folks. For this third of the 5 candid segments of our longer discussion, like I've said before, uh, between myself, my brother, and my father, Braden, my brother, explains the difficulty of managing a special direct consumer beef herd. It's different from what we normally do, which is a bigger commercial herd in a sense. As someone who earned a degree in rangeland management, he's very familiar with how to manage assets appropriately. So he created an idea and pitched it to us. And so this is his idea on herd management in order to help succeed in direct consumer production while using the land to its greatest potential. I hope you enjoy it. First of all, we'd have to reduce the herd, right? But then the herd becomes self-sufficient because you're only producing the amount of calves you need to sell.
Right. Yeah. Explain that, Bray.
What, my whole
Your
half
whole
herd?
yeah. I think it's very viable.
So the problem you run into with doing it this way is that you have to keep the cows longer term.
Yeah.
Usually you calve in the spring, early spring, late winter, and then you raise them, they grow, and then in the fall time, October, November, you sell them. That's pretty typical. Most people do. The problem with this is you'd be calving in the spring, and then you'd keep them through that fall and that winter.
Right.
And then they would be yearlings when their mama cows would be having calves again.
Right.
So basically you'd have a mama cow, her calf, and her yearling, all of them on the ranch still. And then basically that fall you would slaughter those 1.5 year. And then by then her second calf would be kind of taking in its place, you know what I'm saying? So you'd just be rotating between your slaughter cow at 1.5 years, your yearling, your calf, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, we're still on top of that. We still have to also continue to hold back heifers for a year.
Right. And
start having
all
4
this
herds.
You're trying to do this all while maintaining proper stocking rates, so that you're not overgrazing your ground, or you have to buy twice as much hay, which is expensive, or trying to put up twice as much hay, which is just impossible on dry land. Even if we were to put in a pivot, I don't think you'd be able to. But essentially, at that point, what you'd have to do is cut your herd in half. I know it sounds bad, but you're going to be getting more money per head when you go to butcher them and sell them directly to the consumer. So you're making more money per cow. So if you have less cows, I think you'd still be able to make a profit, or at least kind of the same range, if not more. But it's less handling, and you're able to actually do that and send the cows straight to the consumer instead of sending them to the ring and just selling them for ridiculous prices.
Yeah, and you could split that up, because some people don't necessarily want all their meat in the fall. Some want in the spring, where some of your ones that are larger, earlier calves, you could go ahead and feed out as an 18-month-old in the fall. The lighter ones, go ahead and winter them again, and then have them ready and start feeding them in the spring, so that you have ready for a spring slaughter. And maybe some of your dry heifers that, we talked about, having a preg test done on a 2-year-old heifer that's going to calve when she's 3, and she's dry. You're going to go to town with her. You're not going to keep her. So why not hold her through the winter? Because now it's November. Go ahead and feed her through the winter and maintain that body and that carcass, and then start feeding her up in early spring, late winter, so that she can be slaughtered April, May timeframe for folks who are coming out of the winter and want fresh meat then. So you could have 2 distinct different times. And so your herd class is broken down from your larger animals that are going to be fed out in the fall, hold your lighter ones or your heifers, and then do them in the spring.
I think that would also depend on if you're expecting a hard winter and how much hay availability
True.
Or how expensive hay is going to be.
Yep.
Because obviously, if those are all factors, you're not going to be able to keep as many throughout the winter time.
Right. True.
But still be able to, you'd be able to keep some.
Yeah. There's only one downside to this that I can really see. And that is when you go to finish those animals, you're going to be finishing cattle if you do them in two different groups almost all year long. There's going to be only a few short months in there where you're not finishing, which is labor intensive. You're feeding those animals a couple times a day, twice a day, morning and evening.
I mean, it goes into the part that was another concern is we have to essentially create a small feedlot.
Of a sense, yeah. But we also want those animals to have access to grass.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they will regulate their own grass intake based on, hey, I like that grain first, and they'll gobble that up. They fill up on it, and then they just tend to just graze a little bit, and I think that's the difference when you're seeing your numbers that you're talking about, that a lot of people are doing grass and then a little bit of grain. They may be economically driven that way, where they're trying to say, oh, we'll finish them, but you know what, we're going to still push the grass at them for the most part and just give them a light grain finish.
Yeah.
And they may have some reasons for that, other than just, this is what we're going to get at the end of it. They may go, we just want that grass fat or grass fed marketing or marketability. I don't know. But if you let that animal decide and you're still putting on a good heavy coat of fat and good marbling within the meat, that's really what people they want. I've never heard anybody say, hey, I want a piece of meat that's kind of tough and dry. And that's kind of what you get. It's more like a venison type animal when it's strictly grass fat. And that's not what I want. But there are people that maybe dietarily, they need that as well. Their body, I just can't have the fat. I've got to have lean. And there's a good number of them out there like that. So you can customize that as well, that in the fall, you don't finish them. You got some customers that want, hey, I need something that is grass fat only, but again, I want no hormone, no antibiotics. I know how it's low stress, all of these things that go along with that you guys do, but I don't want it finished. I want this as lean a meat as I can. Great. That animal's coming right off of grass, and particularly midsummer. They're not going to be much of an issue associated with high work output on our part, because they're grazing and they're on a fast gain. They're going to be a little fatter, but they're still on grass, and they're coming out of the winter, putting some weight on. You got to have fat on them anyway, but it's just not marbled fat. It's, outside layered fat around the body organs and stuff. Anyway, you've still got that as well.